Hello again and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Old World video. In today's episode we shall be going through step by step my Empire of Man army that I'm going to be taking to my next Old World tournament. Now I know what you're thinking, oh Mordy and Glory running an infantry heavy Empire army again, change the record. Well, I actually have. You see, in this army, there are a significant number of new units, many of which are pretty spicy and quite interesting. And also, I will be building this army around the theme of detachments. That's right, we are going to take what is the traditional Empire rule and see how far we can push it in the tournament scene. And so, without further ado, let's not mess around any further. Let's hold the line and charge right into today's episode. Now, before we dive into the units themselves, I want to go through some of the overall themes and ideas that I had whilst putting this list together. As you guys know, I do like to run armies that have a bit of a story behind them, a bit of a narrative, a bit of a theme, and sometimes a bit of a meme as well. And the idea with this Empire army is that I really wanted to lean into detachments. Now, detachments are no longer a unique Empire rule, but they are the army in the old world that could arguably be said to have the most units with detachments and the army that has the most possibility to take advantage of the rule. Now, if you're new to Old World and you're not entirely certain what detachments means in the context of this game, here's a brief overview. Essentially, you can have main units that have smaller supporting units that can work around them. So, for example, you could have a big block of state troops and then have a supporting unit of missile troops. And when an enemy unit charges your big unit state troops, even though it's out of sequence, your supporting unit missile troops could do a stand and shoot as if they were the one being charged. And any enemies that are killed as part of that stand and shoot would go towards the combat resolution of the following combat. So it's a great way for armies like Empire, who traditionally are kind of weak mano-a-mano, like a state troop is going to struggle to go toe-to-toe with an Orc Boy or a Chaos Warrior. It's, in theory, a great way of being able to even the odds, do a bit of damage before the enemy makes it to your lines. And there are also detachment rules that focus around melee units, so you could have a smaller supporting close combat focused squad that can do an out of sequence counter charge if that main unit gets charged by the enemy, which can potentially get you a flank charge or just get you more bodies into the fight to try and once again even the odds. And that's what we've leaned into today. So you'll notice when we go through the units in a moment that I've got two big parent units, two big regiment units, and they are each supported by a couple of detachments. But in addition to all this detachment shenanigans that we're going to be doing, there is another sub-theme running through this army. A little bit of a meme, if you will, and that is militia. I love state troops. I love the professional vibe of the Empire army. But I have to say that I have been itching to try out Free Company since Old World dropped. And so they will be featuring heavily in this list. And I'm really excited to see what they can do on the tabletop. So with all of that said, now let us get to the part that you're all here for. Let's get into the nitty gritty and deep dive these units. And of course, we're going to start off with the Infantry Corps. Every day in the Corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal a banquet, every paycheck a fortune, every formation a parade. I love the Corps. Now, this army has a very strong infantry corps, I'm not going to lie. In fact, the majority of it is the infantry corps, but that's just right for the Empire. I mean, at the end of the day, they are the sort of human infantry army. They are the infantry army as the Bretonnians of the cavalry army. Starting at the front here, we have the main big brick, and that is a unit of 38 halberdiers. Oh baby! That's a big old chunky unit of halberds. Now, for those of you that played Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, taking a big unit of halberds like this is going to seem eminently familiar. It's going to be like a cozy pair of slippers, because this is what a lot of Empire armies were built around back in the older editions of Warhammer Fantasy. And so I thought, you know what, I'd try it out. Now, of course, it's a little bit different doing it in Old World because the base sizes are a lot bigger. So it does actually take up a really lot of the table. And also a lot of tournaments are playing on not full 6x4s. They're playing on the, 60x44 size tables. So yeah, this unit definitely has a big footprint. And it's pretty intimidating, to say the least. No one wants to charge into a big brick of halberdiers like this, especially when they are supported by a couple of characters. Now, just to say, the halberdiers have got full command, but they've got no shields. It's just light armor halberds, and then we've got the sergeant and the flag and the musician. For the characters leading this unit, bringing up to the big block of 40, we have got an Empire General here with the gold hat and the big blue sword, and he is going to be not only an Empire General, he is going to be my Army General. Now, I have given him the Sword of Battle to try and make him somewhat effective in combat, and I've also given him full plate armor and a shield so that he has a 3+ save, and he has got the white cloak, which gives him a 5+ ward save. So he is a 3-up, 5-up, and he's got 4 attacks, strength 5 with a little bit of AP thrown in there as well. I quite like the Sword of Battle. It's not overly powerful, but it does help solve a few problems that Empire characters have. Namely, they need a bit more strength and they need a few more attacks. We've also got our battle standard bearer here. This is the guy with the big gold flag, and he has got his little blue sword as well. Now, the BSB has been kept pretty bare bones today. It's a captain of the Empire. We've given him full plate armor and a shield, and he has got the Talisman of Protection. And really, that's about it. No special banner today or anything like that. We're really just taking him so that we've got a nice big 12-inch re-rollable leadership shenanigans, because obviously Empire troops, they're only leadership 7 most of the time. So between the General and the BSB, this big unit of halberdiers can project, well, I say this from the characters really, but this line unit here that's going to be in the centre will be able to project out a nice bubble of 12-inch leadership 9 re-rollable, which is very important for when your troops inevitably start losing those initial combats. Now, supporting this absolute giga blob of a halberdier brick, we have got a couple of detachments. And the first one is, we've got a cheeky unit of handgunners. I'm actually really excited to try these guys out. I think the fact that Empire get access to black powder weaponry is one of the things that makes them really exciting, really interesting. And handgunners are just cool. I mean, you just get to make a big line of muskets and just sort of go first rank fire. You don't quite get to second rank fire because of the way that the shooting mechanics work in Old World. But it is a great little attachment, and the advantage of handgunners is they come with AP inbuilt. Now, I've been trying a lot of different shooting attacks recently. I've been trying some bows, and I've been trying some cannons and some hellblasters, and I've been trying some things with AP and some things without AP. And I can tell you right now that the advantage of just having just AP right off the bat is so good. Kicking units of chosen knights down from a 2-up to a 3-up just makes it so much more likely that you're going to pitch a few out of their saddles. Now, you might be saying, oh, Mordian, statistically, it makes you 16% more likely, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the math better than I do. But I have to say, sometimes when you roll it, when you're making your opponent roll those 2-up saves, it rarely feels like he's failing 1 and 6. But sometimes when you put him down to a 3-up save or a 4-up save, it really feels like he's failing way more than half of them. So I do like the handgunners, and I'm excited to try them out. I've only got a unit of 10, but I have another, I think, is it another 30? It's a lot. I've got a lot more that are unpainted, and if these guys do well at the tournament, I'll be looking forward to getting a lot more of them into the army. Now, these handgunners here, they're going to, obviously right now, for sort of parade, they're in this sort of this rank of 2x5, or 5x2 I should say. There is a big chance, depending on space available, that they are going to be going a little bit wider than that, or if there's a hill available, they'll be staying in the 2 ranks, just so that they can get more shots off, because 5 handgun shots is interesting, 10 handgun shots is actually doing something. Now, bear in mind that when the parent unit here, the regiment unit here, gets charged, these handgunners will be able to do a stand and shoot, and I'm hoping that they'll be able to get a few hits off, get a few kills off, and that will help swing combats in the favour of my halberdiers, and then combine it with the fact that there's two characters in here as well. I'm hoping that for once I might actually have a unit that can actually win combats right from the go, rather than having to grind it out and lose a few combats before overwhelming the enemy through attrition. But we'll have to see. Now my other detachment here is a big old line of Empire Free Company. I love these guys. I told you I was taking a lot of them, and we have got 20 in this one detachment alone. Now Free Company are really interesting unit. They're a bit of an odd one. So they cost 6 points a model, which is the same as a halberdier, and they don't get any armor, but they do get 2 hand weapons, and they also get thrown weapons, which allows them to, each guy here, to eat like bottles and bits of brick and whatever they can find, like stones, rocks, pocket sand, whatever it may be, and they can throw those at the enemy as a ranged attack. And thrown weapons have got loads of cool rules, like you can march and shoot with them, they're quick shot, all this kind of stuff. And so the idea is actually, yeah, great, these guys have got 2 hand weapons, fine, if that comes up, that's awesome. But interestingly, I'm actually more focused on their ability to just pelt the enemy with loads and loads of strength 3 attacks. So we'll see how these guys do. Now you might think, oh, no armor, that's a bit rubbish. Well, there's not much difference between no armor and a 6-up save, frankly. But the big thing about these guys is they are levies. Now levies do not cause panic to other units around them. And so you might think, Morty, this looks pretty insane, like this one unit alone is taking up a huge footprint. Well, if I get into a narrow deployment style, there's a really good chance that what I'm going to do, or depending on the army I'm facing, we're facing a lot of cavalry with first charge, I'm just going to take these levies right here and just put them in front of my halberdiers. Have them as a first wave, because they're 120 points, so they're not super cheap, but at the same time, they can absorb a first charge. If they break or fall back, they'll just bounce through this unit, and then the enemy will have used their first charge, and they're going into my halberds, who are going to be pretty happy with that situation. And also, they can do lots of standing and shooting first. So I actually think that this unit is going to be quite flexible, quite viable. It's not necessarily going to be deployed in this big long line either. The fact that I get 2 attacks per guy means that I can deploy them in a 5x4 if I need a bit of space. And if I need a bit of screening, they can do that job as well. I'm very excited for Free Company. I just think that a lot of people see the impetuous rule and go, meh, and then don't go near them. I think that adds a lot of character to them. And also, hey, 50-50, if you're good at rolling 4-ups, you might be able to keep them reined in. Now this covers my first big ass line of infantry, but if it's good enough once, it's good enough twice. So we've taken it again. We've mixed up a little bit this time. So we've got 25 spearmen in this defensive brick formation here. They have got spears and shields and full command, and there are no officers leading this unit. Now I have to say, the main reason I've taken spearmen is because they are the other state troops that I have in abundance. I've pretty much taken all of the halberdiers that I have, and so I want to take another brick of state troops. I want another regiment unit, and so it's going to be spearmen. To be honest, I do like spearmen. I do think that they can do some work, but I'm more of a fan of halberdiers. The fact that I could essentially save 25 points on this unit and take another unit of almost sort of 30 halberdiers is probably where what I'd want to do if I had the halberdier models. But spearmen are still good; they still do work, and they've never really let me down in any of the games that I've used them in. And so we've got 25 of them in this sort of defensive formation. We've then given them a detachment of 10 crossbows. Now, a lot of what I said about the handgunners applies here. They're probably not going to be in this formation here unless there's a hill. We're going to be spreading them out a little bit because this unit is a bit deeper. We'll be able to spread out without completely carpeting the board and the units getting into this way. But the big reason I want to try crossbowmen is A, I've got them painted, and like with my handgunners, I have another 30 of these guys waiting in the wings. But B, there's a big debate at the moment. Crossbows or handguns? Crossbows have got the extra range, and if you're all 6s, they got the good AP, but handguns just have that AP straight off the bat. So what I'm really excited to find out is how these two units actually compare on the battlefield. Can we put to bed the argument of crossbows versus handguns once and for all? And on the other side, we have another detachment of 23 company. Everything I said about the previous unit applies to this one in regards on formations and how I might use the screening. The only thing I want to add here is just let's zoom out a little bit. We have 43 company in this army. That is just so cool. That's going to be so much fun. They might run off and get themselves killed. We might have a perfectly formed defensive position and the 3 company fail their impetuous tests and run off and die. Or they hold the line. I make that 4 up. And when the enemy comes charging in, they get absolutely pelted by all of the bottles and all of the crossbows, all the handguns. And they could actually be a significant extra factor in combat resolution. I just really like the flavour that 3 company add to this whole army. And I also kind of like the underlying tones, the underlying narrative to the force in general. This will be, I think, my 3rd tournament, maybe even my 4th tournament with my Empire forces. And I've been running a lot of state troops, a lot of professionals. But, I've taken a fair few losses with my Empire. And so I feel like the narrative might be that the professional mercenary company, which is Vossenberg's Vagabonds, which is the name of my overall Empire army, maybe the professional ranks have been thinned out a little bit. Maybe the training to get new recruits up to standard is taking a bit longer than expected. And so they've kind of had to bulk their ranks out with some common sellswords. The kind of people that you can hire for a couple of gold coins or a couple of gold coins are very good ones, a couple of copper coins down in the shady pubs in the old quarter of certain towns and stuff. So I do like the idea that maybe these aren't like peasants or farmers or anything like that. My thinking with these 3 company is they are professional sellswords, but they're all sort of individual sellswords or pairs or groups of up to sort of 3 or 4 sellswords that have been hired and then have been lumped together in these units. And that sort of represents why they're more open order rather than close order, because they're not used to fighting as a cohesive unit. And it sort of represents why their armor, why they've still sort of got the uniform and everything. They've been given, here's a quick uniform, throw that on, but they've not been fully equipped with the finest weapons that Vossenberg's Vagabonds can buy/loot. So I just thought that adds an extra little bit of a story dynamic to the whole army, and I'm just generally excited to see how 3 company do in a competitive environment. Now that covers the infantry corps and really the majority of the army. Let's come over to our support units now. I will start off with the artillery corps. You know it, you love it. It is Empire cannons. A brace of Empire cannons. To be honest, any serious Empire army shouldn't be going into battle with less than 2 of these things, because they're really the only way that you have to deal with big monsters, unless you are going down the route of maybe some heavy cavalry like demigriffs, or monstrous cavalry like demigriffs, and heavy cavalry like inner circle knights. Cannons are a great way of just seeing an enemy Gorgon, seeing an enemy giant and going, you know what, I just don't want to deal with that problem. It's going to take a couple of turns to get to me. I'm going to put 4 cannonballs into it and hopefully it'll fall over and go to sleep. 2 cannons I have found is a brace of cannons. It is the nice happy medium, and great cannons are very, very good. One might even say they're great. I've run dwarven cannons. The flat D3 damage on dwarf cannons is extremely painful. Great cannons being D3+1 has saved my ass more than once, and these guys are not just good for getting into killing enemy monsters, they're also very good at artillery duels. A lot of war machines have 2 or 3 wounds, and all you need to do is get the hit, get the wound with the Empire Great Cannon, and statistically you pick up that war machine every single time. I don't think I've lost an artillery duel since I've been running a brace of cannons. That's how effective these things are. And when you've got armies like orcs and goblins, who a big meta for them is taking the orc artillery corps, having a couple of cannons can give you a lot of insulation against what otherwise might be a bit of a one-sided shooting fest. Speaking of shooting fest though, we have got my favourite war machine in the entire game. Not just with Empire, but literally the entire of Warhammer the Old World. It is the Hellblast of Oligan. I love this thing. It's just really good. It fires 3 artillery dice worth of shots. If you get a misfire, it doesn't immediately start having any problems. It just gets -1 to hit, which makes it actually eminently reliable. And I have used this thing to take on anything and everything. Strength 5, AP -1 means that even some of the toughest monsters out there, you'll be wounding on 5s, and a lot of stuff you'll be wounding on 4s. And then when you start shooting it into its ideal target, like infantry, it just shreds them. It's a really versatile weapon, and I like it a little bit more over the cannons because you have the number of shots. The cannon can be one shot, oh, the enemy's got a ward save, oh, didn't do anything. The Hellblaster can kind of overwhelm those ward saves, overwhelm those regens by just throwing absolutely everything, including the kitchen sink, at an enemy unit. Big thing to mention here is I have no engineer, so we are going to be rolling our artillery dice like men, and if we get any misfires, it's going to be squeaky bum time. But like with the Free Company, that does add a little element of danger, a little element of tension, which sometimes can be frustrating, but other times can be kind of funny and epic. After the artillery, we have got the steam tank. I love the steam tank, man. This is a really old metal one as well, so it weighs an absolute ton. And the steam tank in general, it's a must-have unit for the Empire. I'm sorry, it just is. It's a massive crutch, don't get me wrong. And if my opponent can deal with the steam tank, then often it does mean that the game's going to go badly for me. But if my opponent can't deal with the steam tank, and frankly, a lot of armies just can't, then it means that it is going to be running amok. 10 wounds, toughness 7 is really good. And even though it has a relatively low volume of attacks, especially if you don't get the charge off and you don't get those impact hits, because it's so tough, it rarely takes any damage. So it kind of just wins by killing a couple of things. And the enemy being like, oh shit, I'm not doing any damage. And it just all breaks them. And even if it doesn't win the combat, it's unbreakable. What I like about the steam tank is it's just a, oh no, there's a horrible enemy unit, I don't want to deal with that over there unit. You literally put it on what you do with this thing is you put it on a flank where you see where the enemy is going to put their most horrible unit, and you just put it there. Because the steam tank will either just beat that enemy unit, or it'll tie it up long enough that the rest of your army can get the job done. It's a great problem solver for you, and it's a real problem creator for your opponents. And last but certainly not least, we have, some would say, the mandatory level 4 wizard. Now, I have gone for elementalism today, which is what I do normally go for with my wizard, but I have mixed things up as well. I have given this wizard the lore familiar, so I can pick my spells, and I've also gone for the Ruby Ring of Ruin, and I've gone for the wizard's staff. So this wizard here will be able to do 5 spells a turn, and any magic missiles that I do will be at +1 to cast thanks to the wizard's staff. This makes a very, very versatile character, because on the one hand, I can throw out 3 offensive spells with things like Ruby Ring of Ruin, doing the fireball, and then I've got Wind Blast, and then I've got the Elemental Spirit. So that's a lot of potential damage that I can throw at the enemy, but at the same time, it's great buffing potential for me. I can pick if I want to, if I'm facing a very heavily armoured force, Plague of Rust, or the one I'm pretty much always going to be doing, Earthen Ramparts. A big thing that I want to be trying out this tournament though, and something I'm going to make myself take every single game, is actually going to be Travel Mystical Pathways. I believe that's what the spell is called. Essentially allows you to pick up a unit and teleport it 12 inches away from its original starting location. Now, considering how wide this army is likely to be, and considering how narrow a lot of boards and maps are in Old World, the ability to take a unit and just move it out of the way could be very, very important. But also, if I've got a detachment here, my opponent's like, oh, I'm just going to line up on that detachment and just blast through it. You know, I'm just going to go, okay, Travel Mystical Pathways, move. Oh, look, now you can't go after the unit you wanted to, and the only thing that's really facing you is a couple of, you know, potentially big bricky units of melee infantry. So Travel Mystical Pathways is a spell that I'm very interested to try and get the most out of, and I'm also interested to try out, you know, doing a bit more of a blasty mage with things like the Ruby Ring and the Wind Blast. But that just about covers it. So in summary, we've got a buttload of infantry, we've got a buttload of cannons and fire support, and we've got a buttload of detachments, and we've seasoned the whole thing with some wacky impetuous units and some potentially misfiring cannons just to add that extra layer of flavour. My general battle plan for this list is going to be to hold the line and use my superior firepower to force the enemy to come to me, whilst at the same time when they do get to me, trying to pepper them up nicely with lots of supporting ranged attachments as well. Hopefully this will thin out the enemy armies enough so that when they do make contact with my melee units, I will be able to use my superior numbers to overwhelm them in wars of attrition. But as they say, no plan survives contact with the enemy, so let me know what you think down in the comment section below. How do you think this army is going to perform at the tournament, and is there anything that you would do to tweak or change it to try and get more out of this list? Also, if you've got any ideas for army lists that you want me to run, be they Empire ones or for another faction, let me know down in the comment section, and if I can, I'll see if I can put them together and take them to the tabletop. As always, don't forget to smash that like button. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm, and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.